Hi, I'm Sabrina Joy Stevens. I'm a storyteller, a strategist, and a trainer, service causes, campaigns, and companies who are committed to the common good. I'm also someone who used to support abortion and who now realizes that I was wrong for that. I deeply regret that past advocacy, but since I can't single handedly scrub the internet or people's minds of my past words and arguments, I wanted to take a few moments to explain why I'm not passionately pro life. I want to say right up front that if you, like me, have faced one of the hard situations that abortion advocates frequently cite to defend abortion on demand in any circumstance, I feel for you. Okay, I am so sorry. And I pray that you get all the love, the support, and anything else you need to heal and to deal with whatever you're going through or may have survived in the past. I also know and love plenty of people like myself who've had abortions for a variety of reasons. And I want to be super clear that I am not judging you. I'm simply trying to correct myself now that I recognize I was wrong and I want to speak up for what's right. I am so sorry for my past abortion advocacy, for the misinformation and confusion that I helped to spread, and particularly for using my heart story to minimize and legitimize violence against developing children in the womb. Here's what I wish I had said instead. What I wish someone had told me when I was being pressured into an inappropriate procedure in my first pregnancy, and what I wish I'd had the humility to hear when I used to advocate for the abortion industry. All humans are people, and all people are humans. This should be really obvious, but after decades of objectification and obfuscation, this is something we have to say. There has never been a situation in human history where people have decided that some subset of humans don't qualify as people, or that hasn't resulted in some pretty heinous treatment. As soon as an egg and a sperm come together, a unique new human is created, not a part of a woman's body, but a new person and a new body. And we need to be honest about that so that we can have sober, clear eyed conversation about our laws and our lifestyles instead of dehumanizing developing children to try to assuage our cognitive dissonance. Our children's fundamental human right to life is more important than our feelings, our political views, or our lifestyle choices. Consensus is not truth, nor is it morality. Just because a majority of people support something does not make it right. In the past, I've wrongly complained about the fact that pro life advocates have been successful in many courts and state legislatures, even though a majority of Americans still support killing developing children in the womb. That was completely faulty premise. Consensus is not truth, nor is it a sound basis for morality. If we've established that someone is human and living, it really should not be okay to kill them for reasons other than self-defense. And since the child themselves is not threatening anyone's life, self-defense isn't a logical defense here. If a mother and or her developing child becomes sick during a pregnancy, every effort should be made to treat them both, even if we're not always successful. Also, there is a huge difference between acknowledging that a treatment like removing a fallopian tube to treat an ectopic pregnancy will unfortunately result in a developing child's death and intentionally, proactively trying to cause that child's death. Violence doesn't suddenly become healthcare just because it's committed with or by a doctor. When a D&C or a D&E is performed to clear a mother's uterus after her child's unintentional death in the womb, that's healthcare. When it's intentionally performed on a living child in the womb, it's an act of violence. When certain drugs are administered to treat or study things like gynecological cancers or endometriosis, that's healthcare. But when it's given to intentionally poison and starve a newly conceived child, that's an act of violence. Something I am completely fed up with in the field of political communications is euphemisms. These polite fictions that operatives use to deceive well intentioned people into making bad decisions. I cannot tell you how heartbreaking it was to discover years later that virtually everything the doctor told me when I was experiencing an emergency in my first pregnancy was a lie. But the main reason I didn't even think to question him and fight for my baby boy is because I had spent years immersed in this deceptive abortion is healthcare rhetoric. The standard of care for someone in my situation should have been to admit me and work to prevent infection while keeping me as pregnant as long as possible, and then delivering the baby and giving him the best possible NICU care. In hindsight, I would much rather have had the opportunity to try to save my son's life, even if we failed, than to be deceived into letting someone intentionally dismember him out of a sense of medical convenience. That, frankly, should be illegal, And doctors who do that should be held accountable. Doctors can give you a diagnosis, but they cannot predict the future. I'm not talking about clear cut situations like an ectopic pregnancy. I'm talking about situations like mine, where there were multiple possibilities and courses of action, but I was only seriously presented with one. There are also plenty of situations where doctors have just been straight up wrong, diagnosing a child in the womb with a disability or a life threatening condition, which their parents thankfully refused to terminate, only for the kid to be born totally typical. Even if the diagnosis is accurate, they can't necessarily tell you if your child will beat the odds. We should prioritize medical care over medical convenience when we're dealing with hard situations like these. And we should honor every life, no matter its length, instead of presumptuously killing children whose days we can't predict. Life is a fundamental human right. Our laws should protect it, and our culture should promote it. I am so sorry for failing to recognize this in the past, but I am committed to promoting life for the rest of mine. There is so much more that I could say about this, but I will leave it here for now. Thanks so much for listening.